Hello Norfolk and Nottinghamshire classes, welcome to your English lesson today. We have been learning about how to write a short retelling, which is to entertain our reader. We've been using the book Varjak to help us with some inspiration. Okay, please make sure you've got a pencil or a pen to write with and a piece of paper or your home learning book. Go and get all of those things together and then press play and continue the lesson. Press pause now. Okay, so this week your writing task is to write an action-packed retelling. And we're going to use a part of the book where Varjak leaves the house, he goes into the garden, he has a conversation with Elderpaw, and he climbs up that wall and scales up the top of it to go outside. This is partway through chapter 4 and chapter 5. That's the part we're going to be retelling. Okay, so before we start our writing today, I want to make sure that you have a really good understanding of what happens in that chapter so that you know the story so well that when you come to write it, you can really focus on the features that we looked at this week. So we're going to spend a little bit of time just making sure that we really know what we're going to be writing about. So we're going to start off and I want you to listen to my retelling of Varjak. And when I'm retelling this, I want you to think about what happens in this chapter. How has the main character, Varjak, been introduced during using description? And how has the setting been introduced using description? So I want you to really think about that when I'm doing my short retelling. Here is a map that I'm going to use to help me remember the main parts of the story when I am doing my retelling. So I'm going to leave this up and you can think about the description I'm using and the main parts that I have retold. Okay, I'm going to start my retelling now. Varjak ventured outside into the garden. He was a brave and curious cat. None of his brothers or cousins had bothered to go out into the garden, but Varjak loved adventure. When he went into the garden, it was a dark and gloomy place. There were gnarled old trees everywhere that had bent backwards and into themselves and so tangled up you couldn't see the sky. Even though the moon was shining bright that night, very little of its light made its way into the garden. Beyond the trees, there was a stone wall. It was so very, very, very high and sheer and vast, and Varjak looked at it, knowing that to get over that wall would mean he could go to the outside. He sat and drank in the cold night air, and then he heard Elderpaw call to him. "Varjak, I'm here," called Elderpaw. Varjak took small steps over to where Elderpaw was standing, just beside the shadow of the wall. "Hello, Elderpaw. I'm so upset. It was all my fault what happened. It's my fault. And everybody is so cross with me." "It's not your fault," said Elderpaw. "None of this is your fault, Varjak." "Oh, Elderpaw, please can you tell me some more tales about Jalal? It is the most exciting thing I know about is learning about his tales and what he's been up to." "Well, listen carefully," said Elderpaw, "because the stories of Jalal will help you in the outside." "But Elderpaw, I don't want to go to the outside. It's full of monsters." "But yes, Varjak, that is exactly what we need. Only a monster can help us to get rid of the gentleman and his cats." "But Elderpaw," said Varjak, "the stories of Jalal, mother and father said that's all they are, just stories." Said Elderpaw, "I think it is time that you learned a little bit more. I'm going to tell you a family secret." And the Elderpaw smiled and he moved closer to Varjak And he said, I'm going to tell you about the way of Jalal. None of the other cats know about the way. It has been passed down from paw to paw, and now I'm going to tell you all about it. Varjak felt his fur prickled. He was so excited to learn a secret from Jalal. Come closer, said Elder Paw, and so Varjak did. There are 7 skills of the way of Jalal, whispered the Elder Paw, and we know 3 of them. Their names are slow time, moving circles, and shadow walking. He told Varjak, and Varjak was so excited, and he repeated, slow time, said Varjak, moving circles and shadow walking. He was so excited to learn about the way of Jalal. Again, said Alderpaw, I want you to tell me them again. Then suddenly, the back door swung open. Varjak and Elderpaw turned around, and who could they see standing at the door but the gentleman and the 2 cats? The gentleman shooed the cats into the garden, and they came stalking over to where Varjak and Elderpaw were. Elderpaw and Varjak shivered with anticipation of what the black cats were going to do. They came alone. They came closer and closer. As they came closer, Varjak's fur just pushed out. He didn't know what to do. His pulse was racing. He was terrified. He was so scared of these sleek cats. Varjak, said Elderpaw, don't worry about it. I think you need to climb the wall to the outside now. You need to go and you need to find some monsters and bring them back to help us out. But I can't, said Varjak. I just can't do that. It's so high. You can do it, said Elderpaw. You can do it. I believe in you. And so then Elderpaw went and he led the black cats in another direction so that Varjak could climb the wall without them noticing. And so Varjak took a deep breath and he said, I can do it. The Elderpaw believes in me. And he started to scale up that vast and sheer wall, and he climbed and he climbed and he climbed, and he was reaching the top, and he was getting tired, but he kept going. He knew he had to make it. In the name of Jalal, he had to get to the top. And then he got to the top and he pulled himself up. And as he pulled himself up, he turned over his shoulder and he saw that the black cats had got the Elderpaw. They had backed him against the house and they had slashed out at him. And there was a terrible howl, and the black cats came out, shaking their heads. And as Varjak pulled himself to the top of the wall, he knew that the Elderpaw had been hurt very, very badly. But he sat on the top of the wall and he realised that he was the first cat since Jalal and his family who had been to the outside. And that is my retelling of that part of the chapter, and that's how I chose to retell it. Okay, so you've listened to my story, and I want you to really think, well, what happened in that chapter? How was the main character introduced with description, and how was the setting introduced with description? The character I talked about, Varjak, being a brave and curious cat, and with the setting, I made sure it was really dark and gloomy. Remember, lots of trees were blocking out the light from the moon. Okay, so you've heard my retelling. Now we need to really understand the main parts of the story, not the detail, just the main parts. This is going to really help us when it comes to our retelling, when we're writing it, so we can focus on our writing and we don't have to worry about what's happening in the story because we really know and understand this part of the story so well. So have a think. What were the main parts of the retelling? What happened at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the retelling? I want you to have a little think, then say your answer out loud, and then I just want you to make a quick little drawings, not your main drawings yet, just quick little drawings of what happened, maybe 4 of the main things that happened in that story, and then press play and continue the lesson. Okay. So I wanted you just to put 4 main things down just to kind of remember and have you thinking about the main parts. Usually we would all do this together. And so now I want us to have a look at the map that I used. Now these are the pictures from this part of the chapter. So we've got Varjak going into the garden, and then Varjak and Elderpoor and Varjak have their conversation. And this is about the way of Jalal. And then remember the cats, the black cats come out into the garden and they are stalking, they're coming up, and Varjak and Elderpoor are really frightened. Varjak climbs the wall as Elderpoor is leading the black cats away from him. He heaves himself up and then he reaches the top, he reaches the outside. These are the main parts of the story. This is what I would like you to do. Just like we do at school, I'd like you to draw up your 8 boxes and then quickly just do a quick drawing of the 8 main parts of the story to help you to really remember and understand what happens in this retelling. Do that now. Press pause. Okay, great. So you should have your little pictures there, and this can help you when you've got your map out. So it just reminds you of what happens in each part of the story. These are the main things that happen, and when we write it, that's when we can add the detail in. Okay, so we love stepping it out at school, and so I want you to step it out at home. Step out the story. It's going to help you once again to keep really understanding what happened, what are the main parts of the story, and that will help us when it comes to our retelling. So when we step it out, we take a step and we make a gesture or an action for the main parts of the story. So let's do it together. You need to be standing up now. So everybody standing up, move your chair out. You should be standing. Okay, feet together, arms by your side, just like at school. And I want you to take a step, and here we have Varjak coming out into the garden. Everybody make a gesture or action for Varjak coming out into the garden. And hold it, hold your action. Great. Now, take another step. And your next action is Elderpoor or Varjak talking to Elderpoor. So Varjak is talking to Elderpoor. I want you to make your action and hold it. Great. Now take another step, and this time we've got Elderpoor is talking back to Varjak. He's saying again, okay, I want you to show that action. Hold it. Brilliant. Now take another step, and the next thing that happens is that the black cats are stalking into the garden. Okay, I want you to show those 2 black cats stalking. You might have quite a mean look on your face, and hold your action. Brilliant. Okay, now the next thing that happened is Varjak goes to the wall and Elderpoor takes the cats away. Okay, so I want you to make your action. Now hold it. Okay, and the next step. And then we've got Varjak climbing the wall. Okay, so I want you to do this action. Climbing the wall, hold it. And then your next step. And he's heaving himself up. I want everybody to show me that action. Heaving yourself up, then hold it. And the next step. And he is sitting and he's surveying the outside for the first time. And that's your final action. Okay, here's what I want you to do. We've done that together. I want you to do it by yourself. I want you to see if you can do it. Turn away from the screen so you don't see the pictures, so you can really start to really remember what is happening. It goes into your long-term memory, and then when you're writing, you don't have to think about what happens in the story. You can really focus on making your writing great. Okay, so you can turn away from the pictures if you want to challenge yourself even more. And I want you to step it out. Do that now. Press pause. Okay, great. You're back. So now you really know what's happened in the story. So it's your turn to speak it. So you're going to tell your story out loud so that you can rehearse your ideas before writing them. Okay, so you really understand the story. And that's what you're going to do. So you're going to be telling the story, rehearsing your ideas before you're writing. And this is going to make your writing much easier because you really understand what's happened and you can focus on the skills that we've been learning. Okay. So you want to have your map in front of you that you drew earlier because this is going to help you to remember the main parts of the story. You can add detail to your retelling if you choose to, but the idea is that I want you to really know what your story is about so that when you're writing, you can focus on the skills that we've been learning. Okay, off you go. Press pause. Okay, fantastic. And so now we're going to write it. We're going to write an action-packed retelling based on Varjak Poor. And our success criteria, this is what I want you to make sure you include. You must use description to introduce the characters and the setting. That's really important. And we practiced that on Monday. You've done that. And then we're going to use subordinating conjunctions to add more detail to my sentences. And we did a long lesson on that on Monday too. And finally, you're going to use correctly punctuated dialogue to help move the story forward. And that's what we learned about yesterday. So we're going to do the skills that we've learned to do our retelling. And we're lucky because we know what happened in that chapter so well now that we're going to be able to really focus on the success criteria. Now, let's just remind ourselves here, this feature in red that we had was our subordinating conjunctions. So a subordinating conjunctions is a word or words that's used to join a subordinating clause to another clause. And here my sentence is, Varjak made it to the top of the wall before the gentleman's cats saw him. And before is our subordinating conjunction and adds some more detail there. So Varjak made it to the top of the wall. That's our main clause or our main sentence. And then the gentleman's cats, that's our subordinating clause. So we're joining it together. Okay, really great so that we can add some detail to our writing. Okay, so the subordinating clause adds more detail to the sentence. It tells us when, where, and why. And we use subordinating conjunctions in our writing to link the main clause to the subordinate clause. And also it gives us extra information about what happened, when, where, and why. Okay, now have a look and see. Tell me, what was this feature in red? Well done. It was direct speech and it was correctly punctuated. Direct speech. So let's remind ourselves, direct speech is when the exact words that have been said by a person are written down inside inverted commas. So here we have, there are 7 skills in the way of Jalal, whispered the elder poor. The direct speech, what he actually said was, there are 7 skills in the way of Jalal. And we use direct speech in our writing to help us develop the characters and the plot. We can show the emotion of the character, hear their voice, hear their mood, and we help to move the story forward. And it's really important that it's correctly punctuated to help our reader so that our reader knows that it's speech and it helps the reader to be able to really understand what you're writing about. And so we have inverted commas, which are speech marks, and they go before and after the direct speech. They surround what's being said. I'm sorry, it's all my fault, said Varjak. So I'm sorry, it's all my fault is the direct speech. And here we've got the inverted commas that are surrounding the direct speech. We need to make sure there's a capital letter at the start of each piece of speech. So we have here, the direct speech here is, do you think it's my fault, elder poor? And look, at the beginning of that direct speech, even though there's a comma just before it, even though there's a comma here, okay, this is the start of the direct speech. So this is the start of his sentence, of what he's saying. So do needs to have a capital letter. And punctuation, question marks, full stops, commas, exclamation marks go inside the inverted commas because they're part of what is being said. So I'm sorry, it's all my fault, comma, said Varjak. Okay, and so we've got our direct speech and we've got our comma and it comes before the closing inverted comma. And if a person who is speaking is named before the speech, you must use a comma before the first set of inverted commas. And I've got here the direct speech is, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. But look, we've got a comma, Varjak said, comma, and then we have our direct speech there. So the purpose of a narrative is to entertain, to gain and hold a reader's interest. So that's what you're going to be doing today. You're going to be writing a really action-packed, exciting narrative that makes people want to keep reading, to really enjoy what's being read. I want you to entertain me today with your narrative. And what I'm going to do when you're writing, I'm going to leave this page up, because this page has got that punctuation, and I know that that's probably the trickiest thing for us to punctuate correctly. So your success criteria is there. We want description to introduce the characters and setting, subordinating conjunctions to add more detail, and correctly punctuated dialogue. Don't forget other skills that you've used and learned about, the fronted adverbials, they're all useful. That's all really good writing skills and techniques that you can add into your writing. But I really, really want you to make sure that you are correctly punctuating the dialogue. That's my number one priority with this. Okay. It's your turn to do your writing. You know the story. You might want to have another look at your map and just remind yourself of what happens so that you don't have to worry about what happens in the story. You know it by now. You can really focus on that success criteria and making your writing super. Well done, everybody. Get yourself a glass of water, put on some relaxing music like we have in class, get really comfy. This writing should probably take you about 25 to 30 minutes. You've already done some writing this week that you can use to help you. And then you can stop and press play and continue the lesson. Okay, or finish the lesson. Well done, everyone. Good luck with your writing. You'll be fab. Press pause now. Okay, amazing, everybody. So you have finished your writing. Absolutely fantastic. Tomorrow we're going to edit and publish our retellings. And I know tomorrow's Thursday. We normally do this on Friday. But on Friday, we're going to have a special book week activity. So we're going to edit and publish our retellings tomorrow. Okay, I want you to have a read over your writing and celebrate how well you've done in your writing today. Well done, everybody. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.